When it comes to writing evil characters, sometimes you come across those that aren't actually evil. Instead, it's their past that forged who they became. But sometimes, some characters are just written to inflict the maximum amount of effort to destroy everything and everyone. Those characters are important because your heroes need an adversary that heightens the narrative urgency, and no amount of empathy and understanding is going to replace retributive justice. The lack of a sad backstory makes the message abundantly clear. They're meant to be stopped, not pitied. Even better, villains like this are a great contrast to other antagonists who have so much more emotional stakes to lose. This emphasizes the complexity between the dynamics of having a similar goal but not similar morals. They're a character that develops forward rather than be contextualized by what's left behind. And that's what makes them really fun to analyze. So today, we're breaking down AVA's big bad evil guy, the Dark Lord. Back with a vengeance and even more powerful than ever. He's definitely on my list of characters that are just really fun to watch. He's cocky, excitable, and most of all, remorseless. I love me a fun villain. Anyway, welcome to How Strong Are Alan Becker's Stick Figures, where I break down the fighting style, combat mentality, techniques, and other important details about their arsenal. Disclaimer, this isn't your average power scaling style of video where I'm taking in strength in isolation, and I also won't be putting numbers for the sake of proving superiority amongst characters. It's a dissection, where I'm using the scenes and the context of their personality to better understand why they fight a certain way. Also, it's not completely power that I'm after either. It's appreciating what that character can do and which aspect of their story is best reflected in their combat arsenal. So, let's begin! The Dark Lord's base strength, dexterity, and constitution are high due to his nature as a combat stick figure. We see him take multiple earth-shattering hits, take full blasts point blank, and even survive several throwdowns against terrain. He's fast and furious with his attacks, opting for a flurry of alternating punches and kicks, and massive bursts of concentrated energy to send his opponents flying. The Dark Lord's fighting style is brutal dominance. Base Dark Lord is already strong, with the highlight of his abilities being his pyromancy. He's a mirror to the Chosen One's fire powers, able to create jet-like streams under his palms and feet for flight. But based on AVM0, it's also possible that he has a strong resistance to fire. Notice how he turns off the flames on his hand before touching the lava. He's also able to generate actual balls of fire, some being shot in rapid succession, while others needing to be charged up. He's also able to ignite himself and create a massive shockwave of flames in an area around him. And then when we see him again in Hacker's analysis, we see that he has dark energy and lasers post-showdown. So let's move on to the Virabrand. When the Dark Lord receives the Virabrand in the showdown, his entire physicality shifts and the fighting style alters to an exclusively rapid melee onslaught. This is also extended to him coming back with the corrupted energy. We see that his powers are corrupted letters and symbols, unlike Victim's binary in the Second Coming's exclusively stable letters and numbers. He can also create sharp, spike-like projections that he can control, like needlework. The Dark Lord also gains 2 blades that he can use to slice and pierce through his enemies, with the blades being extendable. He can also conjure a barrier around himself. The ghoul-like nature of his attacks are what makes him unpredictably dangerous. First, he can shoot small balls of the liquid at an enemy and douse them with it. And once in contact, he can turn the liquid into large spikes. If you have no way to remove the liquid like Hacker's eraser tool, you're dead. The attack also works like liquid, curving around barricades like a splatter. He can also control the liquid's density and viscosity as he wishes, and he can melt into the liquid, mimicking teleportation. But what makes the Dark Lord dangerous in this state is actually his evasion. Here's a great example. He alternates between dodges and stabs through the victim clones, making sure to destabilize the force of their attack first before throwing them off and finishing them off. He never actually goes into the full offensive here because he knows he's surrounded, but he also knows that Hacker can't control all of these clones at once because the last time he did something that strong, he nearly fainted. So, the Dark Lord knows that he just has to stand his ground with closed maneuvers instead of hacking and slashing at them all at once and risking making a mistake. It's not just his powers or his tools, because let's face it, they're already broken in their own way. But it's actually his combat strategy that made him win against Victim. You wait, you listen, you strike. This is where we move on to his combat mentality, where the actual power is. It's in the strategy. How does he think and plan during combat, and what part of his characterization bleeds into his fighting style? This is vital for a series like this because Alan Becker's stick figures respect the intellectual capabilities of its fighters. You can have all the power that you want, but if you're careless with it, you'll suffer the consequences. Conversely, if you're able to use power to complement your skill, strategies, and tactics, you will prevail. Contrary to his archetype, he's actually one of, if not the most, patient fighter in the series. And this bleeds into the actual maneuvers not being about raw destruction, but once again, brutal dominance. Those are not the same thing. It's powerful as it is precise. The Dark Lord is a dangerous opponent because out of all of the fights he's in, he learned to always let the enemy make the first move and counterattack based on correctly reading if the enemy is either too unstable or can be interrupted. The Dark Lord stays patient and listens to an opponent's movements before counterattacking or re-engaging. The few times he is caught off guard is because the enemy pulled a new move outside of his predictions, but it wasn't because he went in all carelessly. Now the difference is when he knows he's having fun and when he knows that an enemy might actually be dangerous. When he's having fun, he doesn't really care. But the Dark Lord never actually starts combat with an equal. He lets the opponent get to him first, then he reacts as he must. When the Chosen One enters, not only was he anticipating an old friend's next move, he also waited for how the situation would escalate. When the Color Gang entered the fray, they were the ones on the constant engage with the Dark Lord reacting. When Alan came to the scene, Alan was the first one to do the opening. When Hacker was enraged, Hacker was the one that opened the combat. The common denominator here is that the Dark Lord doesn't open fights, whether it be through emotional or physical states. I also think it just has something to do with his deeper personality. Two of these instances had people he, in a messed up way, deemed as assets. So him not going against them first is an extension to their brittle partnership. Next, during combat, he pivots between restraint and engage. Against the Chosen One, this is most evident. In the first half, the Chosen One was at a massive upper hand and the Dark Lord was correctly disengaging as much as possible. The Dark Lord doesn't counterattack on an opponent until there's a concrete opening or if he thinks he's already seen what he needs to do. He capitalizes on the opportunity to counterattack when the Chosen One is stationary due to the eye lasers, and he uses Google's barrel roll to break the Chosen One's engage before delivering a combo. The one time that he did decide to do a retaliatory attack against the Chosen One without interrupting the other's combo didn't go so well. The Chosen One was able to throw him off. This patience is also what he needed to finish the Chosen One off in the first half. He patiently waited for an opening instead of dashing back, catching Chosen off guard. Now another fight that really shows us well is with Hacker. The momentum of the battle is already dictated by the Dark Lord. At first, he capitalized on Hacker's blind rage, moving on the defensive and attacking only when the opportunity arises. The Dark Lord actually uses the same tactic he did here with the Chosen One, but Hacker's able to block with the lasso. The Dark Lord actually doesn't use all of his cards yet, testing the waters on what Hacker can do, but it's when Hacker is baited into a trap that the Dark Lord starts showing his cards. From this point on, he is on the bold offensive. He has seen what he needs to see. This miscalculation is actually what prompts this reaction with the fireball. He didn't realize that Hacker could remove his powers. That's why when he got in close the second time, he made sure that there was no way Hacker could risk swapping abilities mid-defense or else risk getting stabbed. Interestingly enough, he's also a good judge of when to prioritize a mission over having to engage in combat. When the Chosen One attacked him the first time, he didn't care about fighting. All he cared about was finishing the mission. Actually, even in the second Coming Awakening fight, he tries to keep his distance from the new variables. I also like that this was maybe an extension to his Minesweeper days. What makes him very interesting is that he's not reckless if he doesn't think it's a good idea. It's that strange inclination to maximizing pain and destruction not just through himself, but through uncouth methods. This is especially the case with technology. His intelligence is what makes him dangerous. It's almost as if the mission Alan gave him retranslated multiple times to fit the fact that the Chosen One, temporarily, wasn't a direct target for his destroy mission. It became destroy everything but the Chosen One, weirdly enough. Then it just started amplifying the farther along he went down this path of annihilation, From destroying the Chosen One, to terrorizing other mobs from other games, to creating virus spiders, to literal necromancy. At first I thought that he was just death for death, but there is a method to his madness. I also do like that in the flashback, his first reaction after escaping was realizing how powerful he and Chosen were together. I think this is what eventually fueled that wanderlust for destruction. It isn't anger. King Orange and Hacker are the representations of destruction as anger. But hardly anything about the Dark Lord resembles wrath. It's genuine curiosity. When he saw the Chosen One now, he gave one brutal punch but moved on with the plan flawlessly. He genuinely doesn't care. He envisions and executes and enjoys himself. Overall, a treat of a character. You know, at first, he wasn't actually someone that I really cared for, but he grew on me conceptually. We already have a lot of antagonists that move with purpose. Having one that doesn't is just a refreshing take. It's in his nature. And sometimes, people are unfortunately like that. Anyway, that's it for me. See you all next time.